Hello and welcome back to the channel. So, if you saw yesterday's Doriga build guy video, then you got a little sneak peek about this one, but today we're looking at Ivara Prime. So Ivara, if you don't know, she's kind of a stealth frame in a way. So her passive, you sense nearby enemies within 50 meters of you. Your first ability, you have 4 arrows, a cloak, a zipline, a sleep, and a sound, which kind of like gets the enemy's attention. Your second ability is Navigator. You can fire a projectile and then control it. Your third ability is Prowl. You go into permanent invis, but it drains your energy, and then you can steal loot from the enemies if you walk up behind them or next to them or whatever. And then your fourth ability, you have an Exalted Bow. So, for Ivara, we have 3 builds here for you today, actually. I have this one, which was going to be a Navigator build, but turned out to be more of a high-strength Artemis bow build. We have a stealth build, and we have a more, middle of the road kind of for the Artemis bow. So for our main build, which this is the one that I'm going to call the main build of the 3, we have Corrosive Projection in the aura, we have Blind Rage for more ability strength, we have Transient Fortitude for more ability strength as well, Fleeting Expertise for some more efficiency, Adaptation, you could put Rolling Guard here if you want to, but I kind of like Adaptation. We have Flow and Equilibrium for more energy sustain. If you don't like Equilibrium, you could swap it out for something like Energy Nexus, or swap it out altogether and use some Archon Shards. We have Streamline for some more efficiency, and Intensify for more ability strength. We also have Arcane Rage, which on headshot, you have a 15% chance for 30% damage to primary weapons, and Molt Augmented for even more strength. So you can see here with this build, we have 600 energy and 228 strength, because our bow's damage scales off of our strength, as well as using our primary weapon as a stat stick for this weapon. Now, for the stealth build, this one's more like you want to go full in stealth or play really slow. So we have Dreamer's Bond, which gives you energy and health per second, Constitution for more duration, and you also get Knockdown Recovery, Continuity for more duration, Overextended for more ability range, Nearest Hatred, which gives you some health, but we're really here for the ability duration, Fitting Expertise for some efficiency, Augur Reach for more range, and we also get 80% of energy on abilities is converted to shields, so it's like a mini brief respite. And then we have Streamline for more efficiency and Energy Nexus. If you don't want Nexus here, you could throw on Equilibrium, because we do only have 300 energy on this build. And then we have Arcane Energize for more energy and Molt Efficiency, which, while shields are active, you gain 1% ability duration per second with a maximum of up to 6%. If you don't want this, you could also swap on a Molt Augmented or Arcane Aegis or anything really here. This is a free slot. And then in this build, if you do want to, you could swap out Nearest Hatred for Flow, just so that you have a little bit more energy, which would bring you up from 300 to 600, but you would lose 15% duration, so instead of being at 128, you'd be at 113. But I've opted for more duration for this one. And then here's our middle of the road kind of build for her, with focusing on the bow. We have Growing Power, which gives you 25% more ability strength when you do a status effect, Augur Message for more ability duration, and we also get the mini brief respite built in here, Transient Fortitude for more strength, Umbral Intensify for strength as well. If you don't have this, you can just swap on Normal Intensify, Streamline for more efficiency, Rolling Guard as like a oh crap button, like a panic button. If you don't want this, you could put on Adaptation, but I kind of like Rolling Guard in this situation. We have Vigorous Swap, so that when you equip a weapon, you gain 120% damage for 3 seconds. Fleeting Expertise for more efficiency. And Empowered Quiver, which is an augment for your first ability, which makes it to where when you do your Dash Wire, you'll gain 100% crit damage and 100% chance to prevent statuses while you're cloaked. And then we have Arcane Rage, same thing as before, for the 30% damage increase on primary weapons on headshots. And then Arcane Energize for more energy, because this one as well, we are only down to 300. With those builds being covered, we can move into the Artemis Bow build. So, for Artemis Bow, this one uses rifle mods as your modding type. And we have Heavy Caliber for more damage. You lose a little accuracy, but that doesn't really matter for this build. You'll see why later. Vital Sense for more crit damage. Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot, which will also stack up on kill. Cryo Rounds for some cold damage. Malignant Force for some toxin and more status chance. Bane of Grenier, or any Bane really, you just swap them out as needed. Crit Delay for more crit chance, and then we have Serration for more damage. Now, with that all being covered, I'm also pairing this with the Doriga from yesterday's video, if you saw that. And with that being said, you can use any school that you want, but I'm using Zeneric. If you're using the third build I showed, I would go ahead and throw on Madurai, just for a little bit more strength, because I feel like that one is lacking a little. But if you're using the first build I showed, then you can just pretty much go with whatever you want to. It's preference, really, but we will jump into the Simulacrum, and I will see you guys in just a second. Alrighty, now we are here in the Simulacrum. So, the first build that I'm going to show off is this one here. This is our Navigator or high-strength Artemis bow build. And let me throw on a glaive real fast so I can show this off. This isn't a modded glaive or anything, it's just kind of like a default glaive, just to try it out. I ended up not liking it as a Navigator build, so I moved it to a high-strength Artemis bow. So, with Navigator, if you don't know, you can throw your glaive, and then you can control it, and you can choose where it goes, and you can detonate it whenever you want to. So that's kind of what this build leans on, is Navigator and just controlling your glaive. Now this is default glaive, so I wouldn't like super suggest this one. I would go for Glaive Prime, or ideally you go with like Zorus or Serata, or any of the other glaives that actually do like explosion effects. Glaive Prime I feel like would also work pretty well on here. But now for this build's bread and butter, I like to use the dash wire for this. You don't have to, but hop on, turn invisible for your stealth bonus. Doriga will stop shooting if you're invisible. And then we can pull out our bow, and then you just fire. And you can see here, we basically are one-tapping these guys. And then, like I said, you don't need to be on the wire for this one. But we're kind of blasting. And with the primer active as well, it's pretty nice because you get just bonus damage. And one thing with this bow that's kind of interesting, you can see here, we're firing a ton of arrows every trigger pull. And then if you hold it, you'll turn the bow and fire horizontally rather than vertically. But I don't recommend firing the horizontal because less arrows hit an individual target. So you can see here, it does less damage compared to if you just fire them vertically where they all hit one target. So this is more of a single target build because you want all of your arrows to hit one person. Something you also could do for this build if you wanted to is subsume off Navigator for Zada's Whisper, because then you can target a headshot with like a pistol or something, and then when you fire your arrows into the bubble, they will all redirect into the enemy's head. So that will make it really, really good, and a huge increase in damage as well. Now, with that one being said, we'll go on the flip opposite side of the scale, and we'll go with the stealth build here, and I'll show you how this one works. So this build, if you don't know, you shoot out your stealth arrows, pretty much just kind of where you want them to be. If you can see the whole room, you don't have to do this, but you can only have 3 out at a time. And you just come into one of the bubbles, jump out, and between your arrows and prowl, you can keep your stealth active and be really mobile and just invisible. If you don't want to run something like Loki or Ash, you can just go prowl, and you can double jump in this, you can roll while in this, you can jump roll, but if you slide, it'll break you out. If you sprint, it will break you out, and if you bullet jump, it will break you out as well. Now, if you go stealth and operator away somewhere and then go back, you can continue your momentum with that. So you can kind of speed up your Ivara by using your operator mode for even more mobility. And then she does have an augment for this as well, which gives you, I believe, more movement speed and some other bonuses. But I didn't really tinker around with that one too much because I don't think this one really needs the augment, because most of the time for movement, you're going to be rolling around or operator slinging and stuff like that. So I feel like you don't really need the extra walk speed, because if you're going to be walking, you can just be rolling and jump rolling, which is just infinitely faster than the 20% walk speed. So I didn't think this one really needed it. Now, for our third build, this is our more balanced bow build. Now, this one, same bow build, but this one here, we have Growing Power, Augur Message for Duration, Transient Fortitude, Rolling Guard, Umbral Intensify, Streamline, Vigorous Swap, Empowered Quiver, and Fleeting Expertise. Now, this build here is one that you want to be on your dash wire for, because you have the augment now on this build. So you do want to be on your dash wire when you do this, because it gives you the extra crit and the extra everything else. So this one, we'll jump in and let Doriga do a little priming. You don't really need to, but there we go, that should be plenty. Now, you hit your 3 to go stealth, you pull out your bow, and you hop on your wire, and then you shoot them. And you can see this one does a little less up front, but you do have the bonus crit and everything like that. If you don't want to use the augment, you could swap it out for a flow if you still want to use this build specifically for vigorous swap. But if not, I would recommend using the initial build I showed, because I think that one is the best of the 3 personally. Because this one, you can see we're getting good damage and one-shotting these enemies still, so it doesn't truly matter too much which one you use. But I felt most comfort in that first build. But those are the 3 builds. And now we can jump into Steel Path, and I will show you this build specifically here. And then I will go into the next mission and show you this one. The stealth one, I don't think I really need to show, because you kind of just are invisible, so it's more for like spy missions mostly. But let's jump into a Steel Path mission, and I can show you off these builds. Now we are here in Steel Path. I'm going to go ahead and activate my Zenaric so that I can get some more energy, which if you want to for your aura slot, or not your aura slot, your augment Exilus slot, you could also throw in something like Power Drift for even more strength, or you could throw on something like Prepared, which will make it to where you start with even more energy when you start your missions. And I believe if you have it maxed, it lets you start out at 100% energy. Let's turn invisible here. There we are. But the reason this build, this is the first build I showed off. The reason this one has a super high energy number is because this build is very energy hungry. So I went with as much as I could fit in here, because you want a ton of energy to keep all of your abilities and stuff active. And you can see we're pretty much one-shotting all of these enemies here. And hold charging doesn't make it do any more damage than just tap firing does, from what I've noticed. I could be wrong, but from what I've been able to tell, it does not change how much damage you do. It just changes the orientation of your arrows when they fire. So we'll go ahead and turn everything off here. Which, with Ivara, similar to my Ashe build, if you saw that, your survivability is mainly in Rolling Guard if you're using the other build. But for this one, it is mainly in your invisibility. So the longer you're invisible, the more survivability you have. So I'll go ahead and throw this little arrow here. And Doriga's going to do some damage here. But they don't really know where well, they do now. But so, we got a little energy. I still have my glaive. Getting rid of some of these guys. Which I did mention earlier that your bow uses your primary as a stat stick. Or if I didn't, I should have. But I went with Fullman because this is a very high base damage weapon with this build I'm running. Which the build I'm using, I showed off in a video just the other day. Which, if you don't want to look there, I also have this build in my Nova video, because this is the same weapon that I'm using there. So, now we've got some more energy, we can turn our stuff back on. And we can go back to one-shotting these guys. Get him off this button so that he doesn't summon the Necromech. We died there because we got hit by the Artemis blast before we turned invisible. But we can whip everything back out. They did get the Necromech here, which is kind of bad. Let's get rid of this guy here. There we go. And now we have more energy. We can keep one-shotting these guys. There we go. We'll go ahead and break our invis and run over here. See if we... Oh, this is the Simulacrum area. And even outside of invis, this build does still function. It's just your survivability is in your invisibility. And your bow does use a lot of energy just being active, so you do kind of want to keep that active so that you can keep doing your big chunks and chunks of damage. But I am playing solo, so getting energy is a little bit difficult compared to if I was with people. There we go, we have a little more energy now. We can go back invisible and whip our bow out and go back to one-shotting. So your damage is here. If there's any tips you guys can give me for keeping my energy up, let me know, because all I've really been working with is equilibrium, and I know you can do yellow shards, but I don't have too many of them not enough to put on this character. So if there's anything I can do for energy sustain, let me know, because I know you can do yellow Archon shards for energy efficiency, I think it is, to swap out, or to make the equivalent of equilibrium. And then I know you can do blue orbs for more overall energy. But my main energy sustain, for the most part, is from equilibrium and energy nexus are like my main sources of energy. We'll go ahead and take out this little void egg here. Get rid of that arm. Try to get rid of this one as well, so you can't shoot me with that big old cannon. And then I'll throw a little dash wire here, because why not? There we go. Let's go ahead and dodge over here again. I think for this build, I would actually swap out Equilibrium for Rolling Guard now that I'm using it in this mission. Because I do feel like Rolling Guard would give you more value compared to what Adaptation does. At least in this context of being solo and everything like that. If you're just taking a little bit of damage every now and then, I feel like Equilibrium would be fine. But in situations where I'm like, you're playing solo like this, or you become the focal point of damage, I feel like Rolling Guard would be a lot better compared to Adaptation here. But that's the build overall. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do have some more edited style content coming out to try to improve the quality of videos. So be on the lookout for that here soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video nonetheless, and I will see you in the next one.